The Jungle Book.
The Jungle Book is a collection of stories by English author Rudyard Kipling. The stories were first published in magazines in 1893-94. The original publications contain illustrations, some by Rudyard's father, John Lockwood Kipling. Kipling was born in India and spent the first 6 years of his childhood there. After about 10 years in England, he went back to India and worked there for about 6.5 years. These stories were written when Kipling lived in Vermont. There is evidence that it was written for his daughter Josephine, who died in 1899 aged 6, after a rare first edition of the book with a poignant handwritten note by the author to his young daughter was discovered at the National Trust's Wimpole Hall in Cambridgeshire in 2010. The tales in the book, and also those in the second Jungle Book which followed in 1895, and which includes 5 further stories about Mowgli, are fables, using animals in an anthropomorphic manner to give moral lessons. The verses of the law of the jungle, for example, lay down rules for the safety of individuals, families and communities. Kipling put in them nearly everything he knew or heard or dreamed about the Indian jungle. Other readers have interpreted the work as allegories of the politics and society of the time. The best known of them are the 3 stories revolving around the adventures of an abandoned man cub Mowgli who is raised by wolves in the Indian jungle. The most famous of the other stories are probably Rikki Tikki Tavi, the story of a heroic mongoose, and Toomai of the elephants, the tale of a young elephant handler. As with much of Kipling's work, each of the stories is preceded by a piece of verse, and succeeded by another. The Jungle Book, because of its moral tone, came to be used as a motivational book by the Cub Scouts, a junior element of the Scouting movement. This use of the book's universe was approved by Kipling after a direct petition of Robert Baden-Powell, founder of the Scouting movement, who had originally asked for the author's permission for the use of the memory game from Kim in his scheme to develop the morale and fitness of working-class youths in cities. Akela, the head wolf in the Jungle Book, has become a senior figure in the movement, the name being traditionally adopted by the leader of each Cub Scout pack.
Chapters.
The complete book, having passed in the public domain, is online at Project Gutenberg's official website and elsewhere. Each of the even-numbered items below is an epigrammatic poem related to the previous story. Mowgli's brother Boy is raised by wolves in the Indian jungle with the help of Baloo the bear and Bagheera the black panther, and then has to fight the tiger Shere Khan. The story has also been published as a short book in its own right, Night Song in the Jungle, Hunting Song of the Seoni Pack, cause hunting. This story takes place before Mowgli fights Shere Khan. When Mowgli is abducted by monkeys, Baloo and Bagheera set out to rescue him with the aid of Chill the Kite and Call the Python. Maxims of Baloo, Road Song of the Bandar Log, Tiger. Tiger. Mowgli returns to the human village and is adopted by Mesua and her husband who believe him to be their long-lost son Nathu. But he has trouble adjusting to human life, and Shere Khan still wants to kill him. The story's title is taken from the poem The Tiger by William Blake. Mowgli's song, the white seal Kotick, a rare white-furred northern fur seal, searches for a new home for his people, where they will not be hunted by humans. The animal language words and names in this story are a phonetic spelling of Russian spoken with an Aleut accent. For example, the hero's name Kotick, Kotik, is an affectionate diminutive of cat, kot. Also streak. Starik means old man. Okenskochny, said by Kotick, to mean I am very lonesome is the phonetic pronunciation of Okenskochn which actually means very boring. Likewise, Holuskik, plural ie, is Kolostiak, pl. I, which means bachelor, and is used in the story for unmarried young adult seals. Lukannon, Rikki Tikki Tavi. Rikki Tikki the mongoose defends a human family living in India against a pair of cobras. This story has also been published as a short book, Darcy's Chaunt, Toomai of the Elephants. Toomai, a 10-year-old boy who helps to tend working elephants, is told that he will never be a full-fledged elephant handler until he has seen the elephants dance. This story has also been published as a short book, Shivan the Grasshopper, Her Majesty's Servants, Originally titled Servants of the Queen. On the night before a military parade, a British soldier eavesdrops on a conversation between the camp animals. Parade Song of the Camp Animals parodies several well-known songs and poems, including Bonnie Dundee.
Characters.
In alphabetical order. Akela, an Indian wolf. Bagheera, a melanistic, black, panther. Baloo, a sloth bear. Bandar-log, a tribe of monkeys. Chill, a kite, renamed Ran in U.S. editions. Shachandra, a muskrat. Dazi, a tailor bird. Father Wolf, the father wolf who raised Mowgli as his own cub. Grey Brother, one of Mother and Father Wolf's cubs. Hathi, an Indian elephant. Ikki, an Asiatic brush-tailed porcupine, mentioned only. Kaur, Indian python. Karait, common krait. Kotik, a white seal. Mang, a bat. Moor, an Indian peafowl. Mowgli, main character, the young jungle boy. Nag, a male black cobra. Nagana, a female king cobra. Nag's mate. Rakshaw, the mother wolf who raised Mowgli as her own cub. Rikki Tikki Tavi, an Indian mongoose. Sea Catch, a northern fur seal and Kotik's father. Sea Cow, Estella's sea cow. Sea Vitch, a walrus. Shere Khan, a Royal Bengal tiger. Tabaki, an Indian jackal.
Adaptations.
The book's text has often been abridged or adapted for younger readers, and there have also been several comic book adaptations.
Comics.
A comic book series, Petit Dome, Man Cub, was published in Belgium between 1996 and 2003. Written by Chris and drawn by Mark Anessan and Guy Michel, it resets the stories in a post-apocalyptic world in which Mowgli's friends are humans rather than animals. Baloo is an elderly doctor, Bagheera is a fierce African woman warrior, and Kaur is a former army sniper. Marvel Comics published several Jungle Book adaptations by Mary Jo Duffy and Gil Kane in the pages of Marvel Fanfare, Vol. 1. These strips were collected in the 2007 one-shot Marvel Illustrated, The Jungle Book, the DC Comics Elseworld story. Superman, the Feral Man of Steel, is based loosely on the Jungle Book stories, as well as the Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan stories. The infant Superman, like Mowgli, is raised by wolves, and takes the name Kal. Bagheera, Akela, and Shere Khan all make appearances. The character is later given the civilized name of Clark by Lois Lane, and is captured along with his friends, and used for profit by Lex Luthor, who is also eventually slain. Bill Willingham's Eisner Award-winning comic book series Fables, published by Vertigo Comics, features the Jungle Book's Mowgli, Bagheera and Shere Khan. Though their characterization remains true to Kipling's stories, Willingham and artist Mark Buckingham also make oblique references to the 1967 Disney animation in dialogue and artwork. The series amalgamates characters from fairy tales and folklore, as well as children's literature. Shere Khan, for instance, is shot dead by Snow White, whilst Mowgli is employed as a spy by Big Bad Wolf. Zenescope Entertainment released The Jungle Book as a 5-part comics miniseries under their Grimm Fairy Tales label in 2012, followed by The Jungle Book, Last of the Species miniseries in 2013.
Books.
Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book is inspired by The Jungle Book. It follows a baby boy who is found and brought up by the dead in a cemetery. It has many scenes that can be directly linked back to Kipling, but with Gaiman's dark twist. Mr. Gaiman has spoken in some detail about this on his website.
Live-action film.
Tomb Eye of the Elephants was filmed as Elephant Boy, 1937, starring Sabu Dastagir. In the 1960s there was a television series of the same name, loosely based on the story and film, Jungle Book, 1942, directed by Zoltan Korda, starring Sabu Dastagir as Mowgli. Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, 1994, starring Jason Scott Lee as Mowgli. The second Jungle Book film produced by Disney, The Second Jungle Book, Mowgli and Baloo, 1997, starring Jamie Williams as Mowgli. The Jungle Book, Mowgli's Story, 1998, starring Brandon Baker as Mowgli. The Jungle Book, an adaptation that began production in September 2007 and continued for 2 years. Walt Disney Pictures is working on another live-action Jungle Book film with Justin Marks penning the screenplay, Jon Favreau directing the film and Idris Elba cast as Shere Khan, set for a 2015 release. Scarlett Johansson and Lupita Nyong'o were in talks to voice Core and Rakshaw, Warner Brothers. Pictures is also developing a live-action version with Steve Kloves writing and Andy Serkis set to direct. Previously, Ron Howard was set to helm.
Animation.
Walt Disney Animation Studios' 1967 animated film version, inspired by the Mowgli stories, was extremely popular, though it took great liberties with the plot, characters and the pronunciation of the characters' names. These characterizations were further used in the 1990 animated series Tailspin, which featured several anthropomorphic characters loosely based on those from the film in a comic aviation industry setting. After the film's success, Disney Toon Studios later produced a theatrical sequel, The Jungle Book 2 Feet, in 2003. In 1967, another animated adaptation was released in the Soviet Union called Mowgli, Russian, Mowgli. Published as Adventures of Mowgli in the USA, also known as the heroic version of the story. 5 animated shorts of about 20 minutes each were released between 1967 and 1971, and combined into a single 96-minute feature film in 1973. It's also very close to the book's storyline, and one of the few adaptations which is Bagheera as a female panther. It also features stories from the second Jungle Book, such as Red Dog and a simplified version of The King's Ankus. Rikki Tikki Tavi has also been released in 1965 as a cartoon and in 1976 as a feature film. The former made its way into the hearts of viewers and is even now sometimes aired by TV stations of the former Soviet Union countries as a classic of Soviet animation. Interestingly, in keeping with Soviet ideology, the colonial English family in Rikki Tikki Tavi has been replaced with an Indian family. Chuck Jones's made-for-TV cartoons Mowgli's Brothers, Rikki Tikki Tavi and the White Seal stick to the original storylines more closely than most adaptations. There was a Japanese anime television series called Jungle Book Shonen Mowgli broadcast in 1989. Its adaptation represents a compromise between the original stories and the Walt Disney version. Many of Kipling's stories are adapted into the series, but many elements are combined and changed to suit more modern sensibilities. For instance, Akela, the Wolfpack Alpha eventually steps aside, but instead of being threatened with death, he stays on as the new leader's advisor. Also, there is an Indian family in the series which includes Rikki Tikki Tavi as a pet mongoose. Finally, at the series' conclusion, Mowgli leaves the jungle for human civilization, but still keeps strong ties with his animal friends. The Japanese anime was dubbed in Hindi and telecast as Jungle Book by Doordarshan in India during the early 1990s. The Indian version featured original music by Vishal Bharadwaj, with words by noted lyricist Gulzar and Nana Patekar doing the voiceover for Shere Khan, which made it quite popular among television viewers of that time. The anime was also dubbed in Arabic under the title FTLDGL, Fatah al-Ajal, Boy of the Jungle, and became a hit with Arab viewers in the 1990s. The Japanese anime was dubbed in Hindi and telecast as Jungle Book by Doordarshan in India during the early 1990s. The Indian version featured original music by Vishal Bharadwaj, with words by noted lyricist Gulzar and Nana Patekar doing the voiceover for Shere Khan, which made it quite popular among television viewers of that time. The anime was also dubbed in Arabic under the title FTLDGL, Fatah al-Ajal, Boy of the Jungle, and became a hit with Arab viewers in the 1990s.
Stage.
A Hungarian musical was composed by Laszlo Dez, lyrics by Peter Gesti and Paul Bex. The musical was first performed in 1996 in Budapest and is still running today in many Hungarian theatres. It won the prize of the Hungarian Theatre Critics as the Musical of the Year in 1996. Stuart Patterson wrote a stage adaptation in 2004, first produced by the Birmingham Old Rep in 2004 and published in 2007 by Nick Hone Books. In 2006 the Orlando Shakespeare Theatre commissioned a unique adaptation for their Theatre for Young Audiences series. With book and lyrics by April Dawn Gladue and music and lyrics by Daniel Levy, this version explores the joy and pain felt by his two mothers, the human Mesua and Raksha the wolf, and stresses the benefits of community and compassion. The music is distinctly Indian in nature with 2 of the 7 songs sung in Hindi. It has since been produced by Imagination Stage in MD, Pennsylvania's Shakespeare Festival, Brigham Young University, and dozens of community and collegiate theaters. It is published by www.tiascripts.com. A dance adaptation by the Boomcat Dance Company premiered on May 2, 2008 at Miles Playhouse in Santa Monica, California. It was choreographed by the company with artistic direction by Lili Fuller, Marissa Goodhill, Emily Iskoff-Dagian and Adam North. A new adaptation written by Leonard Joseph Dunham was premiered by the Hunger Artists Theatre Company in Fullerton, California, on September 12, 2008. Art rock adaptation The Third Jungle Book from Progress 2. The Jungle Story is extended about the jungle of civilization. English version 1981. The Castle Theatre, Wellingborough is performing a brand new musical version of the much-loved story for the 2009 Christmas season.
Radio.
A 2008 BBC radio adaptation, directed by Chris Wallace and starring Nisha K. Nair as Mowgli, Eartha Kitt as Kaur, Freddie Jones as Baloo and Jonathan Hyde as Bagheera, with music by John Mayer.
Music.
Australian composer Percy Grainger, an avid Kipling reader, wrote a Jungle Book cycle, which was published in 1958.
Controversies.
A letter written and signed by Rudyard Kipling in 1895 was put up for auction in 2013 by Andrusia. In this letter, Kipling confesses plagiarism in the Jungle Book. "I'm afraid that all that code in its outlines has been manufactured to meet the necessities of the case, though a little of it is bodily taken from Southern Esquimau rules for the division of spoils," Kipling wrote in the letter. "In fact, it is extremely possible that I have helped myself promiscuously, but at present cannot remember from whose stories I have stolen